Welcome,
JD from New
Adrian.
York.
Welcome from New York.
Bruce, also from New York.
Welcome, Bruce.
Juan Carlos Delgado from Chicago.
Welcome from Chicago, Windy City. And if you're in a position where you can turn on your cameras, do the presenter the justice of doing that. If you can't, we understand. If you're driving, we understand. If you're at work, we understand. But if any of those things don't apply, turn on your cameras. Show up. Let's show up so Mr. Pacheco can show out.
That's funny. This is Emma Artist, DMV, Virginia.
Welcome from the DMV.
Mike Sullivan, Boston.
Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
Julio Aquino, Florida.
Mr. Aquino, welcome.
Shamiqua Obi, the DMV.
Welcome, Shamiqua from the DMV.
Amanda Shaw, DMV.
Amanda, welcome.
Rod
All
Obi,
right,
DMV.
we are 6 minutes after the hour, and time waits on no one. So I want to bring our presenter to the stage. Well, first off, I want to say I met this gentleman about a year ago. I don't have the long tenure of other people knowing this gentleman, but I can say in the short amount of time that I have met him, I've learned quite a bit. He's a man, he's a God-fearing man of the church, and he has been very transparent from the beginning. Humble beginnings. He's made $1 million in monthly, I want to say almost 8-figure months in telecom. And now he's actually one of the founders of one of the products that we're on the verge of launching, very revolutionary product. He's also one of the partners of the organization. They're a power couple. A lot of times when you see people that are very successful, there's someone right next to them that is very successful also, either pushing them forward or holding their hand and cheering them on. And I see this all the time with him and his wife. And I can't do anything but applaud it, because there's nothing like a great leader, but there's also nothing like a great power couple. You see them uplifting each other, doing it all the time. And like I said, this gentleman has been, every training he comes on and he does, I'm like, man, that was a great training. I didn't even know how much knowledge this gentleman had. But based on the people he surrounds himself with, I should know that he's a wealth of knowledge. So I want to check the microphone to see if one of the founders is on this call. Mr. Pacheco, are you here?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I want to do the justice. Everybody put some fires and some ones in the chat for Mr. Pacheco. Put your pens in your hand, put your pencils in your hand, get your recorders on, because every time Mr. Pacheco, the mic, he drops knowledge, and I leave it being, because the best thing that you can do for someone that is presenting like our millionaire mentors is to go and apply that knowledge. And that's how they enjoy. They don't get paid to do this. He's not getting paid to do this. He's volunteering to do this. So put some fires and ones in the chat for one of the founders of our organization, Mr. Danny Pacheco.
Well, thank you for the kind words, Chris. I'm thrilled to be here, and I wish I could be here a lot more. But today I've actually set aside 3.5 hours for this training. So you set it up perfectly when you said, hey, bring out your pens, bring out your papers. We're going to cover a lot of things today. We're going to cover, number one, why we should write things down. And I know you probably heard things like this before, but I'm going to give you documented evidence of how powerful this is. Then we're going to move on to talking about the 5 levels of leadership, and then what actually gets you to those 5 levels of leadership, which are the 6 principles of influence. And so we're going to cover that tonight. Hopefully we can get through all of it. If we can't get through all of it, then we'll have to do another session. But I am super excited to be here and to be amongst people like you, Chris McHenry. You're out there setting this organization on fire. You're relentless. You're a leader. You're out in the field. People follow you because you're in the trenches. You're not You're not a leader that says, hey, go do this. You're a leader that says, let's go. And that's what real leadership is all about. So I just respect you a lot, Chris. And your name, every time there's a conversation of somebody doing something, Chris's name pops up every single time. So my hat goes off to you. And if I could mention a couple of other people, I heard Jabari's name come by, another go-getter, another person that's setting this whole organization on fire. He's put up some big numbers. He's like the Michael Jordan right now, or Solar here at the organization. So I love it. And Ed Ayala, I heard him, he's at the gym right now, but he says, hey, you know what? I'm going to be plugged in. And he's, if I have to say something about Ed, is that he is always plugged in. Every time there's a meeting, there's a training, there's a leadership council meeting, there's whatever is going on in person or in Zoom, this man is always connected. And that's what leaders do, right? They lead by example. Another gentleman, Julio Aquino, who both of them, it's not about, hey, go do this. It's about let's go and let's get it done and let's do it together. And so hopefully today there's some, some information, some nuggets that you can pull from today. I do want to start with talking a little bit about writing things down. And I have a nonprofit organization. It's called Elevate International Ministries. And Chris mentioned it. I am an associate pastor. They call me a marketplace pastor. My job at the church is to elevate business owners and get them going, right, within the church. And I'm not going to go into a preaching of it. Just, I'm very honored to have that as one of the hats that I wear. So, if I talk a little bit about God, or I throw some scripture and you're against that, please don't be offended. I'll preface it by saying this. If I'm talking about something that was quoted out of the Bible, I'm going to say ancient Jewish wisdom. And that way, we're all good. We're all okay. Because I'm going to tell you that the principles that are in that ancient Jewish wisdom has been taken out and rebranded over and over and over again in books like, Think and Grow Rich, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I can name a ton of them that have all and have actual amazing principles that are being taught, but they all stem, if you look far enough and you understand where it comes from that ancient Jewish wisdom. So when I say that, that's so that we're all okay and nobody gets touchy or offended. But so let's get started. Millionaire mentorship, right? We're going to talk a little bit about vision. And before anything happens, right? And I've said this before, you guys have heard me say it. Nothing happens without having the dream work happen first, right? Everybody says teamwork makes the dream work. I think it's the opposite. I think the dream work actually makes the team work. You don't see people, try to learn how to, play basketball or football or anything without dreaming of a championship, without dreaming of being the best, that comes first, right? Then the organization, they hire the right people and they pull people together and then they form the team. But the dream, the vision part of it happens first. The rest of it is manifestation of what that vision was. So if you want to become a millionaire or a billionaire or any, a thousandaire, like we said at the beginning, you have to have a vision. What is that vision for you, right? So what does it mean? It's the faculty or state of being able to see. So right now what you're seeing is a training. I took a little bit of snippets out of a training that's branded to my nonprofit. That's why it doesn't have any of the BYLD logos, but we're going to go through this material really quickly, and then we're going to dive into the BYLD things. But I wanted to put this out there because this is something that you've heard before. I am almost sure that 99% of you have heard this before, and if you haven't, pay attention, because a lot of us hear things, but we don't apply them. And so if you want to hit those big numbers, you have to apply this. And what I'm going to give you right now is statistical data of why you should do this. So it's the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination and wisdom. A vision is a precise, clearly defined goal with a detailed plan and timetable for achieving that goal. So if we went to ancient Jewish wisdom, it will tell you, write the vision down and put it plainly up on the wall so that everybody that walks by it can see it. They could see the vision. It's so important that you're able to see it. So right now, what you're going to get from this training, folks, is write things down. So if you have a pen and paper, write this down, because the message is there. You probably heard it before, but I'm going to give you reasons why you should. And this is statistical data that, I'm pretty sure you probably have never seen before. And if you have, great. But if you haven't, you're in for a treat. So let's get started here. Dr. Gail Matthews, psychology professor at Dominican University, conducted research on the topic of goal setting using 267 participants and found that simply by writing down your goals, listen to this, you are 42% more likely to achieve them. Now, this is astounding. Okay, this is a psychology doctor saying, look, we took 267 people and we found that just by writing things down, you have a higher likelihood to achieve it. That puts you in the 42 percentile of increase of actually achieving that goal just by writing it down. Now, this is important, folks, okay? Because think about it this way. Let's say you're a baseball player, right? If you hit, a good batting average is 300. Now, I'm not a baseball fan. I did go see the Dodgers, win here at home the first 2 games last year for the World Series. But that was because my daughter told me, hey, we got a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The Dodgers are playing the Yankees. And I knew enough to know that that was a big deal, right? Dodgers and Yankees. So we went to the first 2 games. Phenomenal time. But I'm not a fan of the sport. But I have researched a little bit, and 300 is supposed to be a good batting average. If I'm mistaken, please put it in the chat. Please put it in the chat if I am mistaken. Now, Julio Aquino, I love you so much, and I'm gonna ignore that comment there about the Yankees, but I love you, brother. But a batting average of 300 is pretty good, correct? Am I right about that? Okay, good. Now, imagine that you're batting 100. And just by writing it down, you'd increase 42% on your batting average. Now you go from being on the bench to being a player on the roster. Because, see, you can make a living batting 100. You can make millions batting, in the 200s. But you can make a fortune batting 300. So that's the difference, right? So when we're talking about a 42% more likelihood of achieving something, just simply by writing it down, it's so easy that it's complicated. Because you don't just do it. You're starting to go, why is this going to work? Or how can that work? That sounds goofy. That sounds like it's hokey. It isn't. Something happens. Your subconscious starts working towards the things that you're right. And if you practice this, not just writing it down, but putting it somewhere visually where you could see it. I don't know. I have a mess here, so I got to be careful, but I want to, see, I blurred my background because I got a mess going on. I'm not going to be able to show you, but up on my wall, okay? Up on this wall right here, I got a sign that says $1 million a year. It's a great big sign. It's like a TV screen. And it's got a month, a week, and a day. Okay, I've seen this so many times I could tell you what it is, but it's 83,333 that you got to make a month, 19,230 that you have to make a week, and $2,739 that you have to make a day. Now, I see that every single day in my office, okay? Every single day, I'm looking at it. And sometimes, I'm just glancing at it, but hey, it's getting stored back here. Now, I'm going to share something with you, and I'm not sharing it because, I want you to go, ooh, ah, or anything like that. That's not the point, okay? Please, okay? It's not the point. But this year, one of our investments has already made about $1.4 million. And it's March, right? That's this year. Now, that investment, actually, because of the market, because of what's going on in the market and the tariffs and this and that and all the uncertainty, it went down. So I did the math today. I'm up about $688 for the year. Okay. And on the way back up. All right. So that's a good start, right? But that's there all the time. It's there all the time, right? Because in my subconscious, what I do, my actions are going to be in alignment with what my goals are. And that is a goal. That's like the minimum. I have to make that minimum a year. Now, I've had years where I've made 10 million, right? But that's like that's it. That's the warrior line right there. That's where if I'm not making that, then something's wrong. Okay. So, but imagine this. If your goal is to make $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, $30,000, whatever that is, write it down. I know it sounds simple. I know it sounds hokey, but do it. The best authors in the space of personal development, one of the most renowned books out there, Think and Grow Rich. I think it's page 47. It's going to tell you the exact same thing. You write your goals down. There's just something that happens that clicks in the subconscious that's going to make those things happen. And the statistical evidence is that it goes up by 42%. Now, how many think that it'd be worth a 42% increase to write something down so you could achieve it? Right. Now, let's continue. So, one of the most fascinating studies of writing your dreams was conducted by the 1979 Harvard MBA program. This is almost as old as I am. Okay. I was born in 72. So, this is quite old. It's about 45 years old that this happened. So this isn't news. People have been aware of this for a very, very long time. And, I didn't go to school. I'm I'm a high school dropout, didn't go to college, but I understand what Harvard means to the elite institutions of our country in terms of education. So here it is. They did a study out of 1,000 students. Do you have clear written goals for your future? A shocking 3% had written goals and plans. Only 3% out of 1,000. 13%, in other words, 30 people had done their goals. Right? They wrote them down. 13% had some goals, but never wrote them down. Okay, that's just a good idea. Okay, that's just a dream. It's never going to happen. Okay, an alarming 84% had no goals at all, written or otherwise. Okay, let's see what happened. 10 years later, the same graduating class was interviewed and discovered that the 3% who had written goals were earning on average 20 times more than their peers combined. 20 times more as the 97% of the class combined. They made 20 times. Now, is that pretty compelling? Guys, is that pretty compelling? I mean, just put it in the chat. I mean, is this registering with you guys? I mean, this is data, guys. These are not my numbers. I didn't go to Harvard. I didn't even go to community college. But this is Harvard telling you to write things down, giving you the data. Out of 1,000, 30 people made 20 times more than 97%. That means that out of 997 people combined, these guys made 20 times more. It's unbelievable. That is unreal. So now let's take a look at Professor David Cole from Virginia Tech. Now, he discovered that 80% of Americans don't have any goals. 16% have goals, but don't write them down. 3% have goals, they write them down, but don't review them. Remember what I said before? What that ancient book of Jewish wisdom says? It says, write the vision down, place it where everyone can see it, and then share it. That's what was written down. So this guy says 3% have goals. They write them down, but they don't review them. Only 1%, all in fact millionaires, key statistic there, had goals, wrote them down, and reviewed them on a consistent basis. So guys, now we got a doctor, right, from Dominican school, whatever that school was called. Then we have Harvard, and now we got Virginia Tech telling you the exact same thing. Plus, we have ancient Jewish wisdom telling you the same thing, the same principle, to write things down. So hopefully, guys, I made my point here. I am going to stop sharing this screen, and we're going to go over to what we're going to talk about today. That's not what we were going to talk about. I just want to make sure that you write things down, because what we're going to talk about is, in my opinion, just as compelling as what we just saw. But that's just my opinion. Hopefully, by the end of this presentation, you will agree. I hope. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what this is all about, right? This is the Millionaire Mentorship, right? And so one of the things that you have to develop to become a millionaire in our line of business, right? In our line of business, is personal development and leadership. You got to develop these things. And so I am a student of Mr. John Maxwell. In fact, I don't really share this all the time, but my wife and I are both certified as speakers, coaches, and trainers with a John Maxwell organization. And so I have a lot of respect. I've had him out to 2 events of mine. My wife and I put on an event in Tennessee, and we put on an event out in Nevada. We had about 1,000 people at each one. And we actually paid Mr. John Maxwell $100,000 in Tennessee for 4 hours of his time. We paid him another $100,000 for 4 hours of his time in Vegas. So the reason why we pay that money is because we believe that what he teaches is very impactful. And so we wanted all of our teams to be able to learn from who I believe is the epitome of leadership. I mean, he's written over 60 books on leadership. I mean, he teaches people at all levels of government, at all levels of business, at all level of organizational leadership. And he's just amazing. He's an amazing speaker. If you had the opportunity to see him, then I think you'd agree. Phenomenal gentleman. So one of the things that he teaches are these 5 levels of leadership. And if you ever get the audio of this, there's an audio out there. It was on CD. I don't have it anymore, but it was probably one of the best trainings that I've ever seen on the topic. But basically, it breaks down to 5 different levels, right? You have position, permission, production, people development, and pinnacle. And so I'm going to start by saying that in leadership, you may not be at the same level with everyone. Right? To some of your people, you might be a 1, or you might be a 5, because they've been with you for a long time. You've helped them grow. You've been there for them. You've taken them from learning this business all the way up the ranks. Now they're making 7 figures, or they're making 6 figures, and they're just they're on fire, and they respect you, and because you got them there, right? You help them get there, and that's usually where you get to level 4 or 5. And so you might be a level 4 or 5 leader with some of your folks, but maybe not all of your folks. Maybe it's somebody brand new that just met you, right? So it's going to be position. If you've never heard me speak before and you don't know anything about my story, and you're here for the very first time listening to this bald high school dropout, you might be, well, he's a level 1 for me, because I don't know who this guy is, right? And that it works, right? Because somebody announced me at the beginning, I'm the speaker, and positionally, I'm at a level 1 with those of you that have never heard me speak before, or have no idea what my story is, or what I've done or haven't done, and that's just the way it goes. And then level 2 is going to be by permission. So let's recap real quick. So level 1 is a position, right? I'll give you a better example. Let's say you see a police officer, and they shine the lights, and you don't know why they're pulling you over, but you might be Latino and driving, and you get pulled over. I'm sorry, couldn't resist. But you get pulled over for no reason. You don't know why you're getting pulled over, but you know you are going to pull over, put your hands at 10 and 2, and just comply with everything the officers are going to say. Why? Because you respect the badge and you respect the gun. It's that simple, right? So that person has no leadership over you, but positionally, the position gives him the authority to do what he's doing. So that's another example so you guys can understand. Permission is when somebody chooses to follow you. Okay. They're giving you permission to lead them. Okay. And that's the very second level of leadership that you're going to get to. So give you an example in our business in BYLD, for example. Somebody signs up as a builder, right? In your organization, it's direct to you. Well, that person has just given you permission to lead them. They might ask you, okay, what do I do now? Now you might take them into the back office and show them how all that works. You might put them in the WhatsApp group and you know, and even that, as basic as that is, they have now given you permission to lead them because they signed up with you. Okay. 3, production. People follow you because they know your story. You know what you've represented to the organization. Give you an example, okay? We have our president, Mr. J.C. Rangel, okay? There is countless of people here right now because of his story specific to our industry and specific to the solar industry. You see what I'm saying? Because of that clout, because people know what he's done, right? Over 2,500 installations in a couple of years, or, you know, whatever those details are, you know, that's compelling, right? Because, hey, if I want to sell solar, man, I got the #1 trainer recognized nationwide by other organizations. And now this gentleman is going to teach me how to do the same thing. And he started it when? In 2020, knocking on doors in the worst timing in history to get started with anything. That's a heck of a story, right? But it's the production. It's what you've done to the organization, that impact that's going to allow people to follow. And then when you get to level 4, the people development is with them, right? What have you done for me specifically? WIFA means what have you done? What's in it for me, in case you're wondering. Okay, so people development, that's where you're taking people and, you know, getting them through the ranks, getting them to Builder 500, getting them to Builder 1,000, getting them through all of these different things, the product knowledge, the getting them to the trainer, getting them qualified, getting them binary qualified, all of those things. And now they're making money. Now they're making, you know, 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, 30,000 a month. And it's because of your leadership that got them there. Because along the line of everything that we do within the structure of our company, you have to develop your leadership as you go. Think about it this way: on a scale from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest and 0 being the lowest, right? If you're a 4 in leadership, you're only going to be able to lead people to a 3. If you're at a 10 in leadership, you're only going to be able to take people up to a 9. That's how it works. So that's the law of the lid. That's a principle also from Mr. Maxwell. So, but that's the people development. Then level 5, that is somebody that the name itself, okay, is what you recognize. You recognize that brand because that person has gotten to that point where that brand represents success. That brand represents, if I follow this person, has the documented success that he is, you know, the best at what he does, right? A John Maxwell, for example, he's at that pinnacle, right? Where he's recognized worldwide. Tony Robbins would be another example. There's Jay Abraham, okay, is another example. Grant Cardone is another example. So these are the people that have gotten to that pinnacle where they've become a brand that is recognizable to the masses, that, hey, this is a brand that I could follow because of the proven track record that he has outside of their own industry, but what it touches everywhere else. That's that level of leadership. And some people will never get there, right? And, but hey, level 4 guys, you're gonna make a lot. You make 8 figures in a year at level 4. You can make more than that. So, if don't think that the goal is to get to a level 5. If it is your goal, then get there, right? Write that down. If you write that, man, I want to be a level 5. By the training that we just did, you'll have a 42% more chance of getting to that level if it's at least written down. Okay. All right. Now, just quick temperature check, guys. Are you guys getting this? We're doing good? Because I think we're at about 35 minutes, and I said 3 hours. I wasn't playing. We're gonna go all night here. I just want to see a temperature check right here. Okay, good. All right. So this we kind of just covered this, but if you want to, just put it down, write it down. Right. Number 1 is position. Right. They have the right. This could be a manager position. This could be your boss at work, whatever. They have the right to tell you. A cop, right? A doctor. They have the right to tell you. Just because, they're wearing the lab coat or whatever, they walk in with a clipboard asking a bunch of questions. You immediately tell them your whole life, right? Because, they got the doctor, they're wearing the lab coat, the whole thing. They got the position. It's the rights. Permission, it's relational. Position is relational, right? Permission is relational, right? That person said yes to you, I will follow you, right? That's what happens when somebody signs up, becomes a builder. That's why I don't like using the word close, right? When we say at the end of a meeting, oh, how many people did you close? I don't like that language because we don't close anybody, right? In my opinion, we don't close anybody. That's when the work starts. When somebody joins, that's when the work actually begins, right? So, but anyway, that's a sidebar there. Number 3, production, right? The results, right? In our world, how do we measure our results? We keep score, right? That's why we do it. It's not because we want to say, hey, this person, made this amount of money and that amount of money to impress people. No, it's how we keep score. That's just how it is, right? I was doing a training the other day, and I was having a one-on-one conversation, and I gave this person something that was passed on to me a long time ago. If somebody's giving you advice, make sure that they're giving you advice on something that they've already achieved. Otherwise, those are just good intentions, right? But don't take advice from people that haven't achieved what you want. That's why this millionaire mentorship is so important, because whether the things that I'm talking to you right now resonate with you or they don't, they do work. Okay. I didn't make them up. I just follow them. Right. These are not my thoughts, guys. I didn't come up with any of this, but I learned it and then I applied it. And I believe that if you do the same things, you'll have the same results, because all business is very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And if you start feeding your subconscious all of these different things and writing them down, guess what? 42% more likely to achieve your goals. See, it's simple, not easy. And it's not easy because we're dealing with people, right? If we were dealing with something else, it'd be a lot easier. But because we're dealing with people, that makes it harder. So people development, which is number 4, right? Remember, I'm not in the solar business. I'm not in the water business. I'm not in the Ripple Secure business. I'm in the people development business. At the core of what my wife and I do, that's what gets us going. That's what gets our motor, and what we're passionate about is just people development. And if it happens to be within this vehicle and this structure of build, so be it. Because, guys, I believe 1,000% that your life is going to be better being in build than not being in build. And if that excites you as well to develop your team in that fashion, then you're going to do quite well. And then pinnacle, that's when you have the respect of everybody, right? And I kind of already explained a little bit of what that looks like. So, so this is just more examples of this. I'm going to skip through this, guys, because I want to get to now that you have an understanding of how the levels work. I didn't want to make an exhaustive training on this. Okay, I just kind of wanted to put it there, and I want to get to this next part because I don't want to run out of time. I want to see if we could do this here in the next 20 minutes or so. we're not going to be here for 3.5 hours, guys. I'm going to try to keep this down till, from 6 to 7 is usually how this goes. So I'm going to try to do the next portion here in about 20 minutes for you. If we go over a little bit, so be it. But I don't want to rush through it. But I do want to give you guys an understanding that leadership, those are the levels. How you get to those levels, the number one way to get to those levels is by what John Maxwell talks about. He says, look, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. That's an exact quote. So if you read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, which is written by Mr. Maxwell, that's probably in chapter 1, right? Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So now that we briefly covered the 5 levels of leadership, I want to show you what it is that you have to master. And what you have to master is influence. So I'm going to stop my screen one more time because I have to bring up that training. And hopefully we're not going too fast or jumping around too much. But this all is related. It all goes hand in hand. Let's see here. And then somebody please sound off when you guys can see my screen. See here. Can you guys see my screen? You should be seeing a bunch of concentric circles with some game pieces. Okay, good. So let's take a look at this now. Now remember, we started this conversation of influence to kind of piggyback off of what we just learned, right? We just learned the 5 levels of leadership. Now we want to know, how do I get there? How do I get from a 1 to a 2, from a 2 to a 3, a 3 to a 4, and a 4 and a 5? Well, we've got to break it learning this particular skill. And this skill is called influence, okay? So now, for those of you that are engaged right now, let me ask you this question. What does influence mean to you? How would you describe influence? Just write it down there in the chat. Persuasion, very good. I love it. The ability to move people. Okay, nice. Something that brings inspiration. Okay, very good. The ability to persuade others. Okay. Your impact. All of these are good. Very good. Leading. Very good. So this is how the dictionary describes influence. Getting someone to do what you want them to do. Let me say that again. Getting someone to do what you want them to do. Okay? Now, what does manipulation mean? It means the exact same thing. Getting someone to do what you want them to do. But there's a difference. The difference is intention. Okay? So if you're writing things down, write this down because I never want you to forget this. Okay? Influence is getting somebody to do what you want them to do. Manipulation means the exact same thing. Getting someone to do what you want them to do. Now, the difference is intention. Okay? Now, when I sign somebody up in BYLD, okay, I'm not signing them up because I want them to do BYLD for my benefit. I'll do a presentation for somebody. I've recently, my daughter started to BYLD, and she's got some proposals. She's got, she's doing the thing. She's recruiting a few people, and some people at my church caught wind of it. They started moving there. It's a Spanish church. I'm fully bilingual, so started doing some presentations and the whole thing. And at the end of the day, you know, as a pastor, you have to be careful, right? Sometimes there's a little bit of conflict because you're already in a position of influence, right? And actually, when you look at what we're going to talk about here today, you're also in a position of authority. And so you got to be very careful, right? Walk that line very finely. And so, but here's my point. When I sat down with a group of people, I said, look, guys, I'm I'm not talking to you about build because I want to make money from you. Yeah, well, I get paid to have, you know, I'm not even building, right? I'm not even building the organization. However, it's for your benefit. Okay. Do I want you to sign up? Yes, I do want you to sign up, but not because I need you, because you need to. Very, very different. Okay. The intention behind the principles of influence that I'm going to show you right now is not for your benefit, should not be for your benefit, should be for their benefit. So if your intention is to help that person get to a better life, get to one of the four freedoms, right? Get to financial freedom, get to time freedom, get to geographic freedom, location freedom, get to what was it that it says there? Spiritual freedom, I believe, is the fourth one that's on that fast start training that Mr. Rangel does. And so if you want to get them there, this is the vehicle, right? So yeah, I want you here because you don't have any of those four. You need to have those four in your life, or you said you wanted those four. Here's what you need to do in order to get there, right? So the intention is to help them, not to help you. So if you're looking at people right now with a dollar sign on their foreheads when you're out there, guess what, folks? They're going to see right through you. If you're out there trying to recruit people for your benefit, even though, yes, you will benefit from it, but your intention should be for them to benefit because the transparency, the honesty, the influence that you're going to be able to muster is going to be powerful when the intention is right. And the intention should be them, not you. Okay? So manipulation is quite the opposite. Manipulation is for your benefit first. Okay? I'm going to do these meetings. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But it's for me. Right? Not for them. And so then it just kind of becomes a numbers game and you're just going through the motions because of what you're trying to achieve. I'm telling you, if you want to be successful in anything you do, okay, whether it's build, whether it's maybe you have a different business, a 9 to 5, whatever it is, when you put your intention right, the results are going to follow. But get that intention right. Get it right up here, and then it's going to show up in your business. Okay. So we just covered this. What's the intention? So there's 6 principles of influence. I'm going to tell you right now, the book is called Influence by Dr. Cialdini. I encourage you guys to order the book. At the end, I'll show you what book it is. But this comes right from that book. Okay, so if you want to learn more about this, actually, Cialdini has a certification program. It's 30 grand to get certified as basically a influence practitioner, if you will. That's what it costs. But do you need to do that? No, buy the book and you're good enough. The book is, I don't know, $20, 16, I don't know, 15 if it's paperback, whatever it is, right? But it's phenomenal. So let's talk a little bit about reciprocity. Okay. The reciprocity principle tells us to repay others when they do something for us. Most of the time, it just feels like common decency. When a friend treats you to lunch, you pay for their meal the next time. Unless you're one of those friends that always forgets their wallet, right? But the correct thing is to reciprocate, right? When your neighbors invite you over, you return the courtesy. The principle is an evolutionary inheritance. Early human communities with strong social cohesion and an ability to work together had a better chance of survival. By knowing that a favor would be returned, reciprocity helped to lower the cost of helping one's neighbors and kin. Now, how have we built this into our build business, reciprocity? How many in the chat can put and point to one thing that we do in build that has to do with reciprocity. Reciprocity. Thank you, KD. Oh, that's Carla. Carla did that. Thank you, my love. See, I had to use all of these principles so that my wife would say yes to me. Because I married up. I had to use the principles of influence. Okay, the mentor program, training, okay. Get 4, pay no more, okay. All right. What about when we ask people, hey, look, I'm trying to get through my certification. I'm trying to become a mentor. All I need is to give, 4 more proposals or 5 or 6 or 7, however many I need in order to become a mentor. And, just for letting me take that bill and giving you a proposal, no strings attached, we're going to give you 3 nights and 4 days in Vegas on us. That's reciprocity. In reverse, you're asking them to do something first for you to reciprocate with a free trip. It's already built into what we do. That's the principle of reciprocity. Does that make sense? I'll give you another example, okay? I'm old now, so I have to look at my notes. So give me just a quick second here. I'm going to open up my notes here and take a look. And another example. Okay, this is a very common one. Let's say you go to a restaurant and they give you a free dessert, or they give you a free coupon for your next visit, or they give you a free soda, or a free appetizer. Okay, you're more than likely, 3 things that could happen when that happens, right? You're going to be more generous when you tip. You are more likely to refer that restaurant. And number 3, you're more likely to come back to that restaurant when they give you free stuff. It just happens. It's just how it is. Okay. So another example, I don't know if you've heard of Hare Krishna. They're an organization. They go to the airports and they run around with little flowers, right? And they come and they give you a flower. Now, you didn't ask for the flower. You didn't want the flower, but they come and they give you a flower. And then they ask you for a donation. And because you took the flower, now you feel obligated to buy from them. Okay. And that's how their whole business model is based on reciprocity. And they get those donations. Other donations will mail you pens, the little pins, or they'll send you something in the mail, and then they'll send you an ask for a donation, right? Works. That reciprocity is how that works. And so this is a very, very powerful thing. And it works. I mean, it just does. It's a principle of influence, and it's here and it's listed because it is something that actually works. Now, the next one is consistency and commitment. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of examples of what we're talking about with consistency and commitment. It's not so much consistency of what you do on a day. I'm not talking about, hey, Millionaire Mentorship is every Monday. That's not the consistency I'm talking about. It's once you make a decision, once you make a few small decisions, it's easier to get into a higher commitment, is what we're talking about. And in fact, in the book, it's called the hobgoblins of the mind, consistency and commitment. So once we've committed to something, we pressure ourselves to conform to that commitment. In fact, we'll convince ourselves that our current behavior and beliefs align with our past behavior and beliefs, even when they clearly don't. For example, gamblers who are unsure about their bets before they place them have been shown to be far more confident after they put their money on the table. They convince themselves that they were always confident in the horse they picked or the color on the roulette wheel they choose. And that's something. Once you make the decision, you double down. Happens in reverse also, right? Let's say you're in an argument and somebody tells you, answer something, and the argument is going back and forth. And once people entrench in the decision they made, they will fight on that decision to convince you. They might not even really believe it, but because they've already committed to a position on something, they want to defend that position to the end. That's consistency and commitment. I'll give you another example. And I mean, this is a great example of what they have right here, but I wrote down a few more so you guys could get a clear understanding of what this is. For example, in sales, there's the lowball technique, right? A car salesman might tell you, hey, the price is the MSRP, and this is what the cost is. Maybe they go 500 over, or they go 1,000 over MSRP, and they want you to commit to buying the car. But what happens once you commit to the car? Okay, once you commit to buying the car, now you're going to go over to finance, right? And in finance, guess what? They're going to add this and that, tax, license. Well, I mean, we know we have to pay those, but hey, you know what? There's a beautiful car. You know, I wouldn't be doing my job if I let you drive this off the lot. It's raining today. You want to get that paint protector because God forbid there's a little stone that cracks the paint. We want to give you that coverage on the paint protection for 5 years, whatever. And, you know, it's only $1,000 for it, $1,500 or whatever. And in your payment, you're only going to see, you know, it might go up $10, right? And you're like, oh, wow, you're already committed to buying the car. You already said, yes, I'm going to buy the car. So, well, that kind of makes sense, right? And then, but you know what? We could only go with this car for 3 years, 36,000 miles, but we got the extended warranty, right? It goes 5 years, 60,000 miles. And then we have the deluxe premium extravaganza builder 250, package here that, you know, it'll go for 100,000 miles, 10 years, whatever comes first. And, you know, your payment's only going to go up another $15. Oh, all right. You already bought the car, right? You already said yes. So now you feel compelled to act in a consistent manner on the commitment that you've made. Okay? And you know, and does this sound familiar to anybody? Has there anybody have gone through this whole thing of buying a car and how this process works? It sound familiar, right? That's how it works. And then before you go, you know, God forbid, get a flat tire. We have the special coverage that no matter where you take it to any tire shop, if you get a flat, it's covered for the length of the car, of the warranty. We're going to cover your tires. If they get a flat, you get it repaired, da-da-dee-da-da-da. Another special insurance, that one only went up $8 on your payment. But now you're already up another 30, 40, $50 by the time you get out of there, maybe more, right? Depending on what they offer you, whatever that is. And if you're going to be consistent on what that commitment was of saying yes to the car, I've made my decision. Now everything else is just acting in accordance with that decision. Okay. So when we get the bill, guess what? That was a small decision. Not that small, but it was a decision. So now to follow up, that's why we have such a high percentage of conversions, because they've already said yes to you at some level to get that bill. Now they're saying yes to the appointment. Now they're saying yes to hearing the proposal. And now it's going, right? Customer's going to act in that consistent pattern because you already made a mental decision, which was yes. Okay. So that's kind of how that works. Social proof. I mean, this one here it's so powerful. It is just so powerful that we decide what's correct based on what others think is correct, right? So when you see things like, a million hamburgers sold, you're like, yeah, well, if a million people tried this hamburger, maybe I should too, right? You hear all these people, you see all these cars outside of an In-N-Out. Okay, look, I've eaten an In-N-Out many times, and I don't think they're worth being in the drive-through for 30 to 45 minutes. They're good, don't get me wrong. So if there's some In-N-Out fans here, don't hate on me, but I just don't think it's worth, the line that I have to do to get them. But when I see the line, I'll tell you what, I get FOMO because I'm like, well, maybe it's really going to be worth it this time. Right? And I'm looking at the line. I'm like, well, all these people can't possibly be wrong, right? Maybe the problem is me. No, I got to eat there, right? I'll get the lettuce wrap because they do that. They do the lettuce wraps for me, and then they got the puppy whatever, and they got the fries and all this stuff, secret menu stuff, and you know, all these people can't be wrong, right? So it's that social proof. Or when you see an influencer, or when you see somebody that's with a big following, it automatically puts you at ease because, oh man, they got 500,000 followers. Let's hear what this person's got to say, right? That's the social proof. Now, in our business, well, before I talk about that, I'll give you a couple of other examples of social proof that you may or may not be aware of. Customer reviews and ratings. Online stores like Amazon or Yelp showcase reviews and star ratings. When people see that many others have positively rated a product or service, they are more likely to trust and buy it. Bestseller labels, right? We see those all the time. A product marked as a bestseller or most popular makes customers feel that if others are buying it, it must be good. This increases conversion. I'll give you an example. This happened just Sunday. There's a psychologist. She's a writer. She's a speaker. She's a preacher. Her name is Anita Phillips, I believe is her name. And she was being edified by Sarah Jakes Roberts, right? And I love TD Jakes, right? And so now it's TD Jakes, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and then Anita Phillips, and then my wife, who is one of the most amazing women by far that I've ever met in my life, told me how amazing of a speaker this woman was, and how she wrote this book, The Garden Within, and it's just this, New York Times bestseller, and all of that was in my subconscious. I popped on the TV, and I was on YouTube looking for something to watch live this Sunday morning, early in the morning, and this whole little commercial of this person, Anita Phillips, and then showing stadiums of people listening to her, and the New York Times bestseller of the book that my wife had already endorsed, that Sarah Jakes Roberts had already endorsed, that TT Jakes had already endorsed. Guess what I did? I watched it, and it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. The social proof was actually there, and it was just, and it was great. Like I'll give you another example. I'll watch, I'm a movie buff, right? I love movies. I geek out on movies. I'll tell you who won the Oscar for Best Actor and what year, what movie, who directed it, and who lost, and that's my thing. I love movies, right? And I'm older now, so I forget a lot of stuff, but yeah, man, before, when my wife first met me 27 years ago, to me, it was like the NFL watching the Oscars, right? They've gone so downhill that I don't even watch them anymore. But back then I did. And so, and when Roger Ebert was around, that was the first I checked, right? If the movie came out and I thought, it was kind of iffy. Well, what does Roger think about this movie, right? What does, they had the thumbs up, thumbs down thing. And yeah, it's a social proof, right? And how many, then I'll go down and see the ratings of other people and Rotten Tomatoes and all this stuff. And, it's going to influence me whether I'm going to go and spend, $20 plus the popcorn, plus the sodas. Now, I'm spending $100 just going out there by myself, or am I going to wait till it comes out on video, right? And stream it at home, So that's how this stuff works, the social proof. Are you guys getting this, guys? Does this make sense? So we do it in BYLD, right? I'll give you an example. We piggyback off, right? We were Encore Solar, right? Nobody had heard of Encore Solar. It didn't matter. It did not matter. Why? Because we're partnered up with a nationwide installer where all the employees, all of the installers are employee. We don't use those local contractors that are the bad guys of the industry. We have a nationwide installer that gives you a 25-year production guarantee. And is in 66% of the United States. And guess what? They stand by their product. So if something breaks down and you got to go and buy from the dirty energy grid, hey, they stand by their product. They didn't even make the product, but they give you a production guarantee. And that's freedom forever. You see? That's social proof, right? How many installations have they have? I don't know, tens of thousands of installations. They must be good. That's how it works. Cisco and Ebert, thank you, Bruce. That's actually right. I have forgotten the gentleman's name, but you're absolutely right. Siskel and Ebert. Okay, so that's social proof. Now we're going to talk about liking. Okay, you ever heard that expression? Know, like, and trust. It matters. Know, like, and trust. So the liking principle stipulates that we're more likely to comply with a request from people that we know and like. Add to that, know, like, and trust. Okay. How to Win Friends and Influence People, folks, is a phenomenal book. I recommend it. It's old. It's a really old book, but it's a timeless classic, and it'll break this down for you to the ridiculous. So because of time, we're not going to spend too much time on this. I think it's self-explanatory. Look, if there's something you don't like, they rub you the wrong way, they say that something stupid, they say something that's off the wall or just inappropriate, and immediately your walls are going to go up. On the other hand, if it's somebody that builds rapport with you, like I'll give you an example. I was in the Costa Mesa Mall, and I was looking at a watch. I'm a watch aficionado, and I was looking at a watch, and the guy, his name was Daniel, right? And my name is Daniel, and immediately, just because his name was Daniel, I liked him just a little bit more. Just a little bit more, just because we shared the same name. Isn't that something? It works. It works on all of us, guys. I know all this stuff. I see it when somebody's pitching me something. I know what they're doing, and they still get me. I'm the easiest person to buy. So these principles really work. Okay. So if you want another example, I'll give you another example of liking, and then we'll move on. We have one more to cover. Um, do, 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 do. Let's say, for example, you're buying a car. Once again, we're doing the car thing here, and the salesperson might ask about the customer's interests and discover they both love hiking. Now, all of a sudden, you guys have something in common, right? And so you're more likely to move forward with somebody that you have some common ground with. And that's another example of how you could look at liking. Authority. Got two more to go. Authority is one of them. The authority principle states that people are hardwired to comply with requests that come from an acknowledged and accepted source of authority. Thus, we are strongly inclined to be deferential to people whom we consider to be in a position of power or expertise, like teachers, like members of the armed forces, police officers, doctors, and judges. In fact, we respond to even just the symbols of authority like titles and uniforms. Now, that's kind of going back to position, but this is different. This is authority. Okay, so authority is different than position. They kind of go there. The position would have authority because of the symbols and the authority that comes with that position. But authority, real authority, doesn't come with a rank, guys. Real authority and leadership comes from results, okay? Expertise comes with a testimony, comes with all of those things that are being said when you edify somebody, right? For example, if I was telling you, hey, you know what, the Super Saturday this next week is going to be done by Mr. Ayala, and you cannot miss that training. Here's why you can't miss that training, because this man built a massive organization in network marketing. That alone should be reason enough. 7-figure earner and beyond. That should be reason enough. But here's the most significant part of it, in my opinion, that this man left a career in law enforcement to go into this wacky world of network marketing and direct sales, and chose not only an industry that is already very challenging, but chose to do it within another industry that's just as challenging, which was insurance. Not only did he have to contend with all of the challenges that we normally have in our industry, but now he had to deal with building an organization where people had to get a test and pass before they could ever open up their mouth to do anything. And in that tough, hardcore environment, He rose to the highest levels of leadership. And that's why you should not miss that Super Saturday this at 10 a.m. with Mr. Ed Ayala. Now, I don't know if there's a 10 o'clock a.m. meeting Super Saturday with Mr. Ed. Maybe I just made him. Okay, guys. All right. Ed Ayala is doing the training Super Saturday this Saturday at 10 a.m. Because now we all want to hear, right? We want to hear from that authority. Because guys, that's amazing. It's an amazing accomplishment. So, but it comes from authority, right? Same thing with Mr. Rangel, same thing with Mr. Navarro. I mean, this man, well, this man led me into an opportunity where in 6 months we did two. I might be exaggerating, but it's either $2 or $2.5 billion in merchant processing, and we did that in 6 months. That Mr. Navarro is an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing connector, amazing leader, amazing visionary. And he's putting all the pieces here together so that we can have not only a domestic opportunity, but an international opportunity. He's got that vision. He's spoken it into existence. He did it way back when. And now you're starting to see it materialize. And it's only going to get better from here. So that's why you don't want to miss whenever Mr. Navarro speaks. You don't want to miss whenever Mr. JC speaks. I can't think of a better trainer, a better mentor, a better driver of an organization that will outwork the work ethic this man has is bar none some of the best that I've ever seen in the industry. You should not miss one training of Mr. Jason Rangel. So that comes from authority. That comes from results. That comes by what they've done and what they represent to the organization. Okay, scarcity. Last and not least, the scarcity principle, folks, it gets me every time. Every time. Okay. It says we find things more appealing, those things with limited availability. Okay. So for you ladies that are out there right now, put in the chat, how many know what a Birkin bag is? Any gals out there? Because I know the guys don't even know what that is. But the gal, well, some guys might know, but they only know because of a special woman in their lives. Okay. The ladies are engaging right here. All right. So can I walk in to at a men's store and buy a Birkin bag off the street? Can I do that? Okay, I said, no, you cannot. No. Okay, all right. All right, the women know, okay? Guys, if your woman asked you for a Birkin bag, you can't go to the store and buy one. Okay, this is how scarce these things are. Okay, it's a commodity. Okay, you have to spend as a first-time buyer kind of thing, a bunch of other peripheral products, a bunch of other stuff. You got to become a customer first and spend in the neighborhood of about 100 grand before you actually have the right to buy a Birkin bag. And so when my wife told me she, again, I'm not saying this to to impress you, but many birthdays, many anniversaries, many different things. My wife's got Louis, she's got Chanel, she's got Bottega Veneta, she's got all the ones that you would think, right? And she's got her collection there. And Bruce is saying I call that mind control. It's just, no, it's called scarcity, is what it's called, Bruce. And so, when she said she wanted me, I was so upset when I found out how the game was rigged. Right? What do you mean I can't go buy you one? No, you can't. You know, and I was like, what? That's another principle. Okay, but we're not going to get into that one right now. But that one made me tick. And so, uh, you know, she has one, but it wasn't, you know, I had to go the way everybody else had to go, right? And those are scarce and rare as well, you know, and had to authenticate the product and go through a process and the whole thing. But you know, a little checkbox, I got her one, right? And so, but it's that scarcity, okay? Get to me every time, every single time. I own a particular watch that only 3 of them were ever